The restaurant was the kind of place that photographed well. Warm Edison bulbs hanging low, tables set with folded linen napkins, polished cutlery catching soft amber light. It was Friday night, and Maison Del Mar was humming with quiet conversation, clinking glasses, and the low, confident piano notes drifting from the corner. When Jordan and Aaliyah Carter stepped through the door, the sound didn't falter, but the host at the front podium did a double take. Jordan wore a tailored navy jacket, clean lines and understated elegance. Aaliyah wore a stunning deep emerald dress, her curls pinned loosely, her smile warm. They fit the space perfectly, elegant, poised, comfortable. Yet the host, Evan, didn't greet them the way he had the couple before them. His smile faded into something polite, distant. "Good evening," Jordan said kindly. "Reservation for Carter, 7:30. Evan glanced at the reservation screen, saw the name, saw the time, right on schedule. He hesitated just slightly, and then forced a light laugh. "Ah, right, yes. The Carters." He tapped the screen again, though nothing needed fixing. "Your table, maybe a few minutes. You're welcome to wait at the bar." Aaliyah glanced around. There were several empty tables, not being cleared, not reserved, simply empty. She kept her expression neutral. "How long of a wait?" she asked gently. Evan's smile thinned. His voice tightened. "Hard to say." He shrugged as if his hands were tied. "We prioritize returning clientele and regulars." Jordan's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "We've dined here before." "Oh." Evan blinked, surprised. "Well, I didn't see your name listed in our VIP notes." Aaliyah exchanged the smallest glance with her husband. They were not just returning customers. They were anonymous Michelin field inspectors, part of the team sent to evaluate restaurants across the state for next year's star announcements. Their policy required complete anonymity. No one knew who they were. No one was supposed to, which meant bias still spoke first. Evan gave them another stiff smile, the kind meant to close the conversation. "You can stand to the side," he added, gesturing vaguely toward a corner near the coat rack, a spot where they would be out of sight, out of the way, out of place. Aaliyah breathed in slowly. Jordan placed a gentle hand over hers. They stepped aside, but not toward the corner. Instead, they walked to the bar area, calm and composed, settling into two open seats. The bartender greeted them warmly, not forced, not strained. "What can I get for you both?" he asked, friendly and relaxed. Jordan smiled. "Just sparkling water for now, thank you." The bartender nodded and moved away. Aaliyah leaned in slightly, voice low, steady. "He didn't look at the reservations list. He looked at us." Jordan's expression softened, not angry but knowing. "We do what we always do." His voice was quiet, certain. "We watch. We take notes. We tell the truth." From across the room, Evan watched them, still standing tall, still composed, still waiting to be seated, and felt, without knowing why, a flicker of something uneasy settle beneath his ribs. Because sometimes, the most powerful people in the room are the ones no one bothers to see. The minutes ticked by, not hurried, not slow, just long enough to make the message clear: you're not a priority here. Evan seated two couples who walked in after Jordan and Aaliyah. He smiled warmly at them, laughing, leaning in with familiarity, hospitality on display like theater lights. The difference wasn't subtle. It was deliberate. Aaliyah watched it all, posture relaxed, expression unreadable. A notebook stayed closed inside her handbag. She wouldn't need to write anything down until later. She had learned long ago that disrespect had a way of making itself memorable. Jordan simply observed. The pace of service, the host-to-table ratio, the ambiance, the warmth, or lack thereof, in guest interactions. Standard procedure. The bartender set their sparkling waters down gently. "Sorry about the wait," he said quietly, voice low enough that it didn't carry. Not pity, solidarity. He gets selective on busy nights. Jordan lifted his glass in a small gesture of thanks. "We appreciate your professionalism." The bartender nodded once, understanding more than was spoken. Across the room, the general manager, Lydia, a woman in a crisp blazer, stepped out of the kitchen to check the dining room. Her eyes moved with trained efficiency. She assessed table turnover, pacing, server movements, and then she saw Evan. and she saw Jordan and Aaliyah still waiting. Her brows pulled together. She walked to the host's stand. Low voice, controlled tone. "What's the status on the Carters?" Evan straightened, slightly defensive. "They're waiting. I wasn't sure." "You weren't sure what?" Lydia's tone did not shift, but her gaze sharpened. Evan gestured vaguely toward the couple. "Well, they didn't look like they were here for fine dining. I thought we should seat our regular patrons first. The high-profile ones." Silence. Actual heavy, absolute silence. Lydia stared at him. Then her voice dropped to a tone that could slice a man's excuses paper thin. "Every guest is high-profile." Evan swallowed, hard. "And those two," Lydia continued, eyes cutting to the couple, "are part of the anonymous reservations we were warned to expect this month." Evan blinked, confused. "Anonymous?" Lydia didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Her face shifted from confusion to realization to fear. Mic drop level fear. The fear of someone who just mishandled the kind of guests who could affect the restaurant's future. Jordan and Aaliyah had not moved, not glared, not scowled, not demanded. They had simply waited, which made their presence heavier now than any VIP might carry. Lydia inhaled, straightened herself, and walked toward them with the kind of sincerity that cannot be faked. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter," she said gently, "thank you for your patience. Your table is ready." Jordan and Aaliyah stood, graceful and composed. Aaliyah offered a polite smile. "Of course," she said. "We're used to giving people time to show who they are." The words were soft, but they landed. Lydia closed her eyes for the smallest fraction of a second. She understood. She led them to a beautiful table by the window, the kind reserved for guests who mattered. And tonight, everyone in that dining room was about to learn just how much they did. As soon as Jordan and Aaliyah were seated, the atmosphere around them shifted. Not because they demanded it, but because the staff suddenly understood they were being seen. Not watched, not judged, evaluated. Their server, Miguel, approached with genuine politeness. No scripted charm, no forced smile. "Good evening," he said. "Thank you for your patience. May I bring you sparkling or still water to start?" "Still is fine," Jordan replied. Miguel nodded, fluid and professional. He didn't rush. He didn't fumble. His attention was sharp, but not anxious. He was the one who did his job right the first time. Aaliyah noticed and noted it quietly in her thoughts. The first course arrived, a delicate beet carpaccio with whipped goat cheese and candied pecans. Beautiful presentation, pastel colors layered like watercolors on porcelain. Aaliyah picked up her fork and paused, not to hesitate, but to observe. The plate was slightly warm. The microgreens were fresh. The dressing was balanced, citrus, not too acidic. The kitchen was competent, possibly excellent, but consistency was the test. Across the dining room, Evan watched, chest tight, stomach twisting. His earlier confidence was gone, replaced by the creeping realization that one moment of bias could cost the restaurant everything. Lydia moved like a shadow, ensuring every table was timed correctly, silently orchestrating the evening. She didn't tell the staff who the Carters were. She didn't need to. Their presence demanded better. Midway through their entree, the slow-braised short rib with rosemary jus, the head chef, Mark Delmar, peeked out from the kitchen. He scanned the dining room with the eyes of someone who built this place from sweat and stubbornness. He saw them. He recognized the posture, the quiet composure, the focused tasting. Not influencers, not critics writing for a magazine, inspectors. His stomach dropped just slightly. He wiped his hands on his apron and stepped out, steady, respectful, not desperate. "Good evening," he said at the table. "I'm Chef Delmar. I hope everything tonight has been to your liking." Jordan set his fork down gently, met his gaze, and smiled. Not wide, but sincere. "The short rib is beautifully executed," he said. "Tender, balanced depth. The jus is clean." Aaliyah nodded. "And the starter was thoughtful. It shows restraint." The chef exhaled, not visibly, but in relief that only professionals recognize. They were not here to tear him apart. They were here to evaluate the art. Before he stepped away, Aaliyah said softly but pointedly, "Your service staff has potential, but there is inconsistency at the front door." The chef's jaw tightened, but not defensively. He understood exactly what that meant. He turned toward the host's stand. Evan was already pale. Back at the table, Jordan spoke quietly. "The kitchen deserves consideration," Aaliyah agreed. "But the guest experience begins at the door, and bias ruins the meal before the first bite." Their conversation wasn't revenge. It was assessment, professional, measured, clear. The music played on. The lights glowed warmly. The restaurant continued looking elegant. But now, everything had changed. And the closing of the evening was going to change even more. When dessert arrived, vanilla bean panna cotta with honey-drizzled figs, Jordan and Aaliyah didn't rush. They savored each bite the same way they savored the meal itself, thoughtfully, quietly, with care. The dining room buzzed with laughter and conversation. But at the host's stand, Evan stood painfully still. He couldn't stop glancing over. Not at their clothes, not at their expressions, at their composure. The kind of composure that didn't come from confidence alone, but from authority. When the panna cotta plates were cleared, Miguel returned, placing the check on a small wooden tray. He didn't rush away. He stood with a slight respectful bow of his head. "Take your time. It's been an honor serving you both." Aaliyah smiled softly. Jordan nodded. But neither reached for a card. Instead, Jordan gently closed the check folder. No dramatic flourish, no raised voice, just calm truth. "We will not be needing this." Miguel blinked, confused. "Of course, my apologies. Was something incorrect on the bill?" Jordan shook his head. "No. Everything you provided tonight was excellent. You were attentive, welcoming, and consistent. Please make sure your manager knows that." Miguel's shoulders eased, grateful. But then Jordan continued, voice still soft. "However, we are here professionally." Miguel paused. Realization began to bloom. Aaliyah reached into her bag, not for a wallet, but for a slim leather folio. She placed it on the table and opened it. Inside was a card. Simple, white, unmistakable. Michelin Guide Field Inspector. Miguel's breath left him in a stunned exhale, his hand rising to his chest. One moment." He almost stumbled in his haste to reach Lydia. The general manager crossed the dining room with controlled urgency. Not panic, just clarity. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter," she said softly, hands folded in front of her. "Thank you for dining with us. If there is anything you need from us moving forward, you need only call." Jordan nodded once. "The kitchen has strong leadership. Your staff has skill. The overall experience has potential to earn high distinction." Aaliyah's eyes lifted, sharp, direct. "But your hospitality at the door is where the guest experience begins. It cannot be inconsistent, not ever, and certainly not based on who someone looks like." Her voice was calm. Her words were not optional. Lydia didn't ask what happened. She already knew. She turned toward the host stand. "Evan, come here." His steps were slow, weighted. He stood before the Carters and Lydia, face flushed, throat tight. Jordan didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "When we arrived, you made assumptions about us that affected the service we received. Not because the restaurant was full, not because the table wasn't ready, but because of your perception of us." The dining room was quiet now, not listening, but witnessing. Evan swallowed hard, no excuses left. "I was wrong," he said, voice cracking. "I judged you before I spoke to you. I'm sorry." Not defensive, not polished, just human. Aaliyah nodded, not forgiving, not condemning, just acknowledging. Growth starts after the apology, not with it. Evan's eyes glistened, not with tears, with understanding, the kind that changes people. Jordan stood, offering a hand to Lydia. "You have a strong restaurant. Make it a fair one." She shook his hand firmly, reverently. We will." As Jordan and Aaliyah stepped toward the door, the restaurant was silent, not out of discomfort, but respect. They hadn't raised voices. They hadn't threatened reputations. They had simply revealed the truth. Sometimes the loudest power in a room is the one that doesn't have to prove itself. And outside, under the warm evening lights, Aaliyah took Jordan's hand. "Another report written," she said gently. Jordan smiled. Another door opened. They walked down the street, their steps unhurried. They didn't just review restaurants. They reshaped how people were treated inside them. The report took a week to finalize, but it wasn't long before Maison Del Mar began to feel the ripple of consequences. Not punishment. Change. The restaurant implemented new guest training modules, bias recognition workshops, front-of-house hospitality standards that treated every arrival as a valued guest. No exceptions, no shortcuts, no assumptions. And Evan, once quick to scan, judge, dismiss, was now the one arriving early to rehearse greetings, posture, tone. He asked for guidance, he listened, he practiced. He learned how to see people before deciding who they were. Not everyone grows when faced with a mirror, but he did. Meanwhile, Chef Delmar added one new dish to his menu, inspired by a conversation he'd overheard between Jordan and Aaliyah about warmth and welcome. A dish rooted in comfort and elegance. Slow braised lamb with rosemary honey glaze and roasted stone fruits. He called it the Carter Plate, not as a tribute, but as acknowledgement. Because excellence doesn't exist without reflection, and growth doesn't happen without humility. 3 months later, Maison Del Mar appeared in the Michelin Guide announcements. No dramatic buildup, no staged publicity. Just a quiet, clean line. Maison Del Mar, Michelin star awarded. Praised for its thoughtful execution, balanced flavors, and commitment to truly inclusive hospitality. Inside the restaurant that evening, the staff celebrated softly, not with shouts, but with pride. Evan hung back near the coat check, expression humble as he listened to the others cheer. He didn't claim credit. He understood exactly what his role had been and what lesson had led them here. Lydia approached him, her voice steady but warm. "You did the work." Not praise, recognition. He nodded once. "I'm still doing it." "Good," she said. "So are we all." 1 week later, Jordan and Aaliyah returned, quietly, just like the first time. No reservation under their real names, no announcement. When they stepped through the door, Evan saw them, but something was different now. His posture softened, his face warmed. Not because he knew who they were, but because he had learned who he wanted to be. He bowed his head with sincerity, not performance. "Good evening," he said. "Welcome to Maison Del Mar. We're glad to have you. Your table is ready." No hesitation, no doubt. No filter running between sight and value. Just welcome. Aaliyah smiled, genuine and full. Jordan placed a hand over his heart in a gesture subtle enough only the observant would notice. They followed him to the same beautiful window table. As they sat, the music played softly, lights washed the room in gold, and the air carried something new, something earned. The restaurant wasn't just better in flavors, it was better in soul. Because a star had not been awarded for the food alone. It had been awarded for the lesson, hospitality begins with humanity, and everyone in that room felt it.